Jared with State of Tech, and I wanted to do this live stream. I know I've tried live streaming once or twice before, but when I make these videos and I'm about to film a video on how to update the iPad to iOS 12, and I do these videos every year because so many people tell me about how they lost a bunch of files, they, lost their photos and all this stuff, something crashed. And so I always do these videos because I think it's important. It's not hard to update, but what most people don't think about is like what's important with like backing up and making sure that your device is safe and stuff. So there's usually a lot of downtime when I make these videos, and so I'm like waiting for stuff to download and waiting for things to update. And so I thought I would try live streaming and chat with all of you. So there's already a couple people saying hi in the chat, and just hang out with all of you in between this process. Usually, like this video that I would put up on State of Tech would end up being like under 10 minutes for sure, like a software update video. But it ends up taking like a good 45 minutes to film. And so I thought it would be a good chance to kind of hang out in the chat with all of you in between all of this stuff. And so the first thing, I have my stuff ready, but I was podcasting earlier, and so I have some stuff on the table here, some microphones, and I thought I'd give you guys also kind of just a behind the scenes look at the room that I film in, which is just a room at my office that I set up with a green screen behind me. And I typically, key that out in Adobe Premiere Pro and put that, cool State of Tech background behind me. So I don't know, just be interesting. And if anybody has any questions, like feel free to ask away in the chat. I don't really have any like purpose to drive this video other than just to hang out and chat and talk about tech. We could talk about, what's expected, what people think about the iOS 12 update. We could talk about the iPhones coming out. We could talk about Android, like whatever you guys want to chat about, I'm game for. So I've got my iPad here. I've got the keyboard cover, and then I also got a protective back for it because a lot of times I'm just like sliding this in and out of my bag. And my last iPad had some good scratches in it. And considering the iPad Pro has like a raised camera, I just didn't want the camera like dragging against my laptop that my iPad slides up against. And so by putting this case on there, it's just like protecting everything. So I also have like a couple minutes. My iPad's at 48%. All iOS devices have to be at 50% in order to run the update, and so I'm just charging it in the meanwhile. But I need to get this stuff taken down. I've got some microphones and whatnot here, like I was just saying, and those things need to be taken down so that I can get some stuff or get this table set up for shooting this video. So I'm going to go ahead and just get these cords disconnected and whatnot. I haven't really done too much with it, but I started a podcast kind of around technology and parenting because I have 3 kids. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old, and my 8-year-old and 6-year-old love technology. They love spending time on a phone or an iPad or whatnot. They play some Fortnite, and I play Fortnite with them, and so I think it's really important that parents kind of teach their kids about technology and help them learn healthy ways of using technology so that it doesn't become like something that they're addicted to, but it becomes something that they can enjoy and have fun with. And because like technology addiction, game addiction, that's like a real thing. And I just don't want my kids to be ill-equipped for this world of technology. So I started this podcast, which I think has been kind of cool, but I haven't really done too much with it yet. I want to do more. It's tricky getting guests and getting all that organized and then still trying to keep everything going with all the other stuff that I have going on. So just getting stuff cleared off here. the microphones we were using for the podcast earlier, just setting them off to the side. So the beauty about having the green screen behind me is that this office, I mean, it's not really a great thing. My office is kind of a mess, you guys, and with the green screen, like you guys don't have to see the mess that the office is. But I'm going to give you kind of a behind the scenes look at it as I continue to just get things set up. Now, if you've watched many videos on this channel here, you know that there's usually two camera views that I have. I've got like the main camera that I look into that is facing forward, and then I have an overhead camera that typically gets the shot of whatever it is that I'm talking about, reviewing, demoing, or whatnot. And so let me just flip the camera around here so that you can see the camera setup that I have here. It's like not, I mean, it's high tech, but not high tech at the same time. As you can see, I've used like piping that I mounted to the wall. That's an old habit because I used to use that piping to mount like everything because it's cheap and strong and you can mount anything to it. So you can get that at like Home Depot. It's pretty simple. So we've got the main camera right here, which is the Sony a6500 with a 24-70mm lens on it. We've got two Atomos Ninja Infernos here. One is for this camera that I'm waving to right now. You can see it. And then the other one is the top camera that points down at the desk. The TV, you might be wondering like what the deal is with the TV. Like I started building a legit streaming setup. We've got like the streaming, oh, the cables, they look even worse when I have to look at them through my phone. This PC right here is a streaming PC that I built so that I could start doing some live streaming, and I just haven't really figured out exactly what I want to do there. So it's a Threadripper PC because I needed the extra lanes for those Elgato streaming cards. And so there are two 4K cards in there and one 1080 card in there. And then I think that's a GTX 1060 that's in there. And so that's the PC that I built for that. I still have some mining stuff laying around on the ground from all the mining videos that I did, and in California it's just been too expensive to do anything with crypto mining unless I had some cheap electricity, so I haven't been doing much with that. I'm waiting until the weather cools off, and then I'll dive back into working on some crypto mining when I don't have to run air conditioners all the time, which are expensive. So just kind of rotating around the room. Behind me, here's the green screen. That's the camera that I shoot with for the top down. It's the exact same camera as the other one, the A6500, except right now I just have a 55mm lens on it. And then I've got my Rode mic pointing straight down to capture audio. I've got an unfortunate air vent there that tends to make a little bit of noise, so I'll remove the noise from the air vent in post-production when I'm editing. And so that's pretty much the gist of the setup here. And then I sit at this chair and just do my videos here. Sometimes it takes a few takes because I don't get it all right the first time. And sometimes, as most of you are aware, I talk too long, so I tend to edit out some of what I have to say if I feel like I'm getting redundant. So I have the cameras ready to go. They've got hard drives in the Atomos recorders. Those actually record straight to solid state drives, which is nice because then I could just pop them out and then dump that footage on my computer really easily. So the video that I'm going to be making now is how to update your iPad to iOS 12. And some of you may think that's like super easy, very basic. Updating your device to the next version of iOS is super easy, but for a lot of people out there, it's not. And a lot of people will go and they're unsure how to update, first of all, so they look for a video to help them through that process. and then they don't necessarily know about backing up. They don't know the proper way to save their stuff. And then if something goes wrong, I mean, they could lose everything. And I've had a lot of people say that that's happened to them. I've had that happen to people that I know. And so, like with most things, like anytime somebody complains about something more than once and I have to explain it more than once, I tend to make a video for it. And that's kind of where even this whole channel, like State of Tech, started from, was just technology questions that people had for me. And I just started answering them. And then I was like, I should just make a video and put this out there. And years later, I'm still making videos doing that. So the iPad is at 52%, so it is good for running that backup, and then or running the backups that I'm going to run on it, and then also doing the software update. So in a second here, I'm just going to make sure I have like everything good to go, because sometimes I will end up filming a video and then get part of the way through and not have everything situated that I need, and then I end up having to film the video over again, or edit in a portion that wasn't supposed to be where it is. So let's see, yeah, that's just the other day, so that backup's fresh. So sometimes it's even good to check and make sure your own devices are backing up, because I've had devices stop backing up on me, and that's kind of a bummer. So still just wanted to invite any of you to say whatever you'd like to say in the chat, ask a question, make a comment. If you're a subscriber here on State of Tech, let me know how long you've been subscribed to the channel. Another thing I've really been interested in knowing, and I've been posting some polls, but they've really came back like non-definitive. Like I haven't been able to get like a real one versus the other, is, you know, who's using iPhone, who's using Android, who's a Mac user, who's a PC user. I really want to get a better idea of what everybody's using on this channel, because I know I talk about a lot of it. I talk about kind of the whole gamut. I'll have a bunch of iPhone videos, I'll have a bunch of Android videos. I used to have a lot of Mac videos, and now I have a lot of PC videos. So I'm interested in what the majority of you use, so that I can make sure that I'm like putting out stuff that's interesting to you, and not putting out stuff that's just interesting to me, because like I like to mess with all the different technologies. If I walked you around my office, you would see like lots of different technologies. Many of them are like even have the same function as others, but I mean, I like testing out the stuff. I like trying new things, seeing how they could benefit my business and, my life. So it's just the way that I kind of am. Sorry, I'm just checking the iPad to make sure that it's good to go here. Okay, so for the next little bit here, I'm going to be filming this video and bringing all of you along with me, all three of you right now along with me. I always make sure my screen is nice and clean before I make a video, because if it's not, that's not very professional, first of all, and the second thing is that I get glare from the lights, the bright lights in here, because you have to have pretty good even lighting to key out the green screen behind you. Without even lighting, you don't get an even key, and things just don't look good. All right, so iPhone 8, iPhone 6, and iPhone SE PC laptops. Cool. So those are the technologies that you are using. Channel 8 or Chanel 808 Life Hawaii. Cool. So, I was actually kind of bummed that Apple is discontinuing the iPhone SE. Not that it's like an amazing device or anything, but it's like the last of the smaller phones, right? And I did a video a while back talking about how I like the smaller phones. It's cool that the phones are getting big and they're great for like media and stuff like that. Sure, bigger screens, it's much better to watch videos and whatnot on. But when it comes to like just a phone to carry with you and to have and be able to use as an iPhone or an Android phone or whatever, having it be like a smaller device is just, I don't know, it just feels better to me. So anyways, thanks so much for sharing that. I really appreciated that. And I'm going to start the cameras and I'm going to start this video. So I'll be like talking to that camera. So I apologize in the live stream. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing. But I will stop and jump back in. So we'll just see where this goes. And I appreciate your thoughts and comments. And we'll just do this together here. So let me go hit record on those cameras, and you guys can see how many times it takes me to make a video all the way through. All right, I just hit record. Oh, so real quick, I am filming a video. I'm filming a updating your iPad to iOS 12 video, and so I was bringing all of you along and was kind of commenting and chatting about different things, giving everybody a little bit of a behind the scenes look. But I am going to record this video, so you'll kind of be watching me film a video, and you'll see how anybody could do this. Trust me, like anybody can do what I'm doing, because you're going to see how many mistakes I make and all that stuff. But it'll be fun, right? And maybe, we'll see. All right, so I'm going to start my video. Hey, what's up? It's Jared with State of Tech, and today we're going to update our iPad to iOS 12. Now, I make one of these videos every year because I think it's pretty important that we learn to back up a device and update it appropriately. So a lot of people either don't know how to do that or don't think about doing a backup because they just trust that the device is going to update and that everything's going to be fine. But if you have a problem and you end up losing photos or valuable content or whatnot, it's a real bummer, and I just want to prevent that from happening. So every year I've made these videos. So I have my iPad Pro here on the table, and we're going to update this. Now I also have a video for the iPhone as well, so if you're wanting to update your iPhone, you can check out that video. The process is pretty much the same, but I had a lot of people last year asking me for an iPad specific video, so here we are doing an iPad specific video. So I'm going to go ahead and unlock my iPad, and there's a few things that we're going to do first before we actually run that software update. So the first thing that we need to do is go into our settings app, and we're going to do an iCloud backup. Now, depending on how much stuff you have stored on your iPad, you may need additional storage from Apple in order to get a full backup there. But you can also be very selective in what you back up. So depending on the version of iOS that you have on your iPad, I'm assuming you have a modern version, maybe at least like iOS 10 or iOS 11, especially if you have an iPad that you're wanting to update to iOS 12. But what you're going to need to do is go into settings, and you can see in the settings here, I have a list of all of my devices and everything that's connected. And we have this option here called iCloud. And so we're going to tap on iCloud, and here's a list of all the apps that iCloud is using. So you can see how much storage is being used for this specific device. It looks like this device is using 7, and that's the total iPad. That's the total iCloud storage. I can tap on Manage Storage and actually see per device, because I have an iPad. I've got another iPad. I have this iPad. I have an iPhone, and there's multiple devices that are connecting to my iCloud account. And so you can see a specific of what all the apps are using, and then also how much each device is using. So you can see on my plan, I've got a good chunk of space being used up by different things. Even my Apple TV, it's storing my kids' data there for playing Minecraft. So with that said, we need to run a backup of our iPad. And if the backup is going to be bigger than what you have in iCloud storage available, you can toggle off some of the things that you don't find very interesting, or not interesting. You can toggle off some of the things that you don't need to back up, such as my contacts and calendar and all of that stuff are not stored on my iPad. I use Google for that. So I use the Google Cloud to run my calendar and my contacts and all that stuff. So there's really no need to back that stuff up. If you're not concerned about backing up your text messages, which are text messages, especially if you have friends like mine who send a lot of memes, that ends up becoming a big chunk of your storage. So for me, the most important things to back up are going to be my photos and my videos and maybe some app specific data. So feel free to go through and toggle some of these on and off and decide not to back up things that are not important. Other apps down here, it doesn't tell you how much data that's taking up. So you might just toggle them off and see how much you can save when you run your backup. So when you're done, just click on the iCloud here, go down to iCloud Backup like this, and iCloud Backup should be turned on. If it's not, I recommend turning it on because every time you plug in your device and it's kind of sitting idle for a while, it's going to run a backup automatically. And you want to make sure that it's running backups automatically and that you don't have to do it manually. So it does this when it's connected to power. So like I have my iPad connected to power here, and I can, if I just had the screen off and let it sit there, probably within the hour it would back up and run it all by itself. So I'm going to tap on backup now because I want a now backup because I've been using my iPad today. The last time it backed up was yesterday, and so I just want to make sure I have a fresh backup on my iPad. Now, if you have a lot of stuff on your iPad and you don't want to pay Apple extra money for an iCloud account, you can actually plug your iPad directly into your computer. Just make sure that you have iTunes installed on your computer, and you can follow the prompts there to actually just do a backup, and it's going to save all of that backup to your computer. And so then you have what's called a local backup. Now, a local backup is good, but a cloud backup is better because if you're running all of your backups locally and something happens, like your computer and your iPad get stolen, there's a fire, there's damage, whatever, you're still going to lose everything. If the backup is in the cloud and you lose your iPad or something like that, you can just download everything all over again. Okay, so my backup is done. Now, one of the other things that I do is actually back up my photos to Google. I use Google Photos. I think it's fantastic. It's absolutely free to use. You could back up an unlimited amount of photos there. All you need is a Google account. That's great. So with Google Photos, I have it down here in the dock because I always use it. You can see here I've got a bunch of random photos that I've taken, photos that are memes that I've sent to my friends and stuff like that, video clips and whatnot. So right now you can see it's actually backing up everything, and I had 3 items that were not backed up yet. So it's going to go through the process of backing these items up. Now, to free up additional space so that you don't have to use so much iCloud storage space, or maybe you're even running out of space on your iPad because you have so many photos and videos on there, there's an option over here under the hamburger menu called Free Up Space. And when you tap on Free Up Space, once it's done doing an update and backing up all of your stuff, it'll tell you how much space you could actually save by removing those images and videos off of your iPad and just allowing them to be stored in the cloud with Google. Now, the other cool thing about the Google Photos app is that it works on all of your devices as well as your computer in the browser by going to photos.google.com, and you can access all of your photos and videos everywhere. And I like that because I switch devices quite often. Doing the syncing process of like backing up and moving over hundreds of images and video files all the time would just be a real pain. So I like using Google Photos for that. So now I can actually go to Free Up Space, and on this iPad, because I just don't have really anything for it to back up, because I don't have much stored on here, it's giving me the message that says too soon to free up space, check back. But typically, if you had ran the app and you allowed it to go through the backup process to where it's backing all of your stuff up, it's then going to tell you how much free space you can get by deleting what's locally stored on your iPad off the iPad and moving that over. So with that said, like those are typically the 2 things that I do to back up a device and make sure that it's ready for the next version of a software update. So then I go to the settings menu. We'll go to General, tap on Software Update, and then it will check for the software update and let us know that it's available to download and install. I then have to enter my passcode. And once I've entered my passcode, then it's going to start to download that, and that will take a little bit of time for it to download. I recommend being connected to a Wi-Fi network for that. I don't think it will work if you're not, so you need to be connected to a Wi-Fi network. This is 1.35 gigabytes. That's a good chunk of pretty much anybody's data package. So I recommend being connected to Wi-Fi and not trying to force it to download unless you're connected to Wi-Fi. All right, so this is going to take a few minutes, so let's fast forward to the install process. So, chat. Let me see if I could pop the chat up here and see if anybody's had anything to say. So yeah, to free up space on the iPhone, you use iCloud, Google Photos, and put the photos you don't want. Yeah, so you're basically using the same thing. You're doing the same thing that I just got done sharing with everyone. So that's awesome. That's basically the way to do it, is take advantage of the iCloud backup, because it does work so good. I mean, every year when I get a new iPhone, I just run that iCloud backup on my phone and then do the restore, and it's like all my apps, everything. It's basically like I'm using the same phone. Considering that none of the iPhones have really been huge jumps every year, it almost feels like I'm using the same phone anyways. Yeah, having two iCloud accounts would be a way to get around it. Having one iCloud account on an iPhone and another iCloud account on an iPad. I have, I believe, let's see what plan. I have the 200 gig plan, which is cheap. It's like, what, $1 or $2 a month or something like that. But it's like, I have this iPad, an Apple TV. I have another iPad, an iPad mini that my kids use, Apple Watch, iPhone, and an Apple TV here at my office that's all connected. And so the 200 gig plan is just what I need in order to get by. I wish that I didn't have to pay that, but it just is what it is. Obviously, the 200 gig plan wouldn't be enough if I wasn't using Google Photos, because I shoot all of my photos in highest resolution possible, and I shoot all my video in 4K 60p. And so if I was using iCloud for all of that, I would need a huge plan. Those are the people that Apple makes most of their money off of, are people that just use iCloud only, and they're not taking advantage of stuff like Google Photos and whatnot. Google Photos is a game changer, and I was also backing up just to have everything in a second place. I was backing everything up to Amazon Prime Photos, but now they're charging, I think it's like $59.99 a year for that, which is a bummer. And I get why they're doing it, because it's like, for an Amazon Prime subscription, they're giving you all these things, and then you've got people like me who go and dump like thousands of photos and video files in there. So it is what it is. Yeah, so in the video that I did in the video that I did for the iOS 12 update for an iPhone, I actually used my wife's phone. She's rocking a 6S, an iPhone 6S, because she still wants to have a headphone jack on there. Both of our cars don't have Bluetooth audio. They have Bluetooth for like phone calls and stuff like that, but they don't have Bluetooth music audio. So because of that, having the headphone jack just kind of makes things easier. That way we don't have to have the dongle and all that stuff. And that dongle for the headphone jack just is not very strong. It's so easy to break one of those. So iOS 12 update is preparing. It's taking its sweet time like it normally does. And so usually this portion of the video, I will get up and walk around, go do something else. But I thought it would be fun to hang out in the chat and talk. I want to do more live streaming. I just have had a hard time like coming up with a reason to do it, like something that would be valuable. And I even, run through my head right now, like, what's the value in like me sitting here and not value for me, but what's the value that anybody watching would get out of this? Because I don't want to waste anybody's time. I want to make sure that if you guys are consuming content, that it's valuable and that it's worth watching. So that's one of the reasons why I haven't really done like a whole lot of live streaming. But there are some cool things that I have some ideas for. My 8-year-old son and I are going to build a PC together. He's been studying all the different parts of a PC, and he likes playing Fortnite, and he's been using one of my PCs that I had just built out of old mining rig parts. And so we're going to do a PC build together. So he's super stoked about that because I mean he's 8 years old and he's going to get to build a PC, and we're going to make a YouTube video out of it. And so I thought it would be fun to like do a live chat and actually like live stream that whole process, because there's going to be, for me, like as a dad who loves technology and also likes to like teach people stuff, it's going to be a lot of fun for me because there's going to be so much that I'll be able to teach my 8-year-old son about how PCs work, you know, what the different parts on the computer do, which he's been studying a little bit. But I've also been finding that there isn't a whole lot of good content out there on PC building, especially in the area of like books and stuff. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's just the stuff that I like to do, and I think that maybe like live streaming it from time to time would be fun because it's I don't know. There's some things that I think wouldn't necessarily make like a good video, but they'd make for a decent live stream. And so I'm also open to everybody else's thoughts as well. If there is something in the area of live streaming that you think would be interesting, I'd love to hear your opinions. I'm definitely open to that. So this is almost done preparing, and once it is done, I can finalize the process of the software update. If any of you in the live stream are new, I'm filming a video right now, but in between the different takes that I have to have for waiting on my iPad to do what it needs to do, I'm just jumping into the live stream chat and hanging out and talking and seeing what all of you are up to. So that's what we're doing. I have my iPad Pro, which I've done a few videos on. The iPad Pro, not as many as I would have liked. I had some ideas for like an iPad productivity video, because I know a lot of people get an iPad Pro to use it for just being more productive with their stuff throughout their day, maybe for work or something like that. If you're a student, for like note taking and just for managing your classroom life. And so I have some ideas for videos in that area, but I haven't done it yet. I have a lot of ideas for videos, but it's really hard to like decide whether or not one is going to be a good idea or whether it's actually going to be useful. Okay, so jumping right back in to the video because we've got the notification here. All right, so the update is ready to go. As you just saw on the screen, once it finishes downloading and like kind of confirming and preparing the update, it's gonna go through the install process. Now you can also tap later, as you briefly saw on the screen there. If you tap later, you can come back and do the install at a different time. So what's cool though is because you already have it downloaded, you don't have to be connected to that Wi-Fi network anymore. You can go about and do whatever it is you need to do and then run that update later on. And you can also just tell it to run at night as well. So you get back home, plug in your iPad to the charger, and then it just finishes doing that install overnight. And then when you wake up in the morning, you're welcomed with iOS 12 ready to go. So it's going to go through a bit of a process of restarting a couple times. You'll see a bar come across the screen. They'll go across maybe once or twice, and then it will welcome you with iOS 12, and there will be a couple of steps for us to take before our iPad is ready to use. So let's jump right to that. Okay, back to the chat. So that's kind of how making these videos go. It's recording a little segment and then waiting, because nobody would want to watch a YouTube video where I like literally watch paint dry here, essentially watching the bar go across the screen while a software update is running. And so so all of that is typically edited out, which I'm sure you're aware of. So any questions about anything that I do with State of Tech? Like, what is State of Tech? What am I doing here? I'm still trying to figure all of this out. I enjoy making videos on YouTube, but at the same time, Like, my struggle is figuring out exactly what everybody wants to see. I have what I want to share with people and like what the data tells me. Like, because people watch videos and the view count is higher, and so I say, okay, well, that must be what people want to see. But it's not always the case. Like, just because there's a bunch of views on a video doesn't necessarily mean that people want like a channel that is all about that topic. And that's what I've tried to avoid State of Tech becoming, which is why, like, you kind of, if you like have been subscribing to the channel for a long time, you see like my own trends in technology. Like, I'll go from being a heavy iPhone user to being like not anti iPhone, but definitely not wanting to mess with iPhone for a while, or iOS in general, and I'll be on Android. But I was always a Mac user for the longest time until a few years ago I started dabbling in the PC world because I just wanted more rendering power. I needed my computers to be more powerful. Because when you're filming everything in 4K and it's green screen, so you have to key out the background, and you've got, you know, multiple layers of 4K video and stuff like that, you need to have a pretty powerful computer to handle your editing. And Apple just hasn't been putting out like super powerful computers. I mean, they're good. They're good. Even the new MacBook Pro is fast, but as far as rendering out video, it's half the speed of most other computers. Unless I go to use Final Cut Pro. But the conversation that I've had around that is that if I start editing in Final Cut Pro, then I'm truly locked into the Mac ecosystem and I can't jump around because there's no Final Cut Pro for Windows. And so editing in Premiere Pro at least gives me the option to jump back and forth between Mac and Windows PCs. And right now, I don't have any Mac computers, no Mac laptops, no Mac desktops. My only iOS devices are my iPad Pro, my Apple TV, and an iPhone. And I don't have any computers that are Apple, which is the first time I've gone without a Apple computer since 2001, when I switched back to Mac after being on PC for a few years. So anyways, the software update on the iPad takes a little bit of time. For the sake of not using up gobs of storage on my hard drives, I'm actually just going to, usually I get up and I hit stop on these drives. Let me flip the screen back around just to show you guys what we're looking at. So these two Atomos drives here, or digital recorders, record to a solid state drive, which goes right in the back. And the solid state drive I can pop out and then just plug right into my computer. That's the Sony a6500. So those two Atomos drives like make for huge files. Like, this project that we've been filming here on the two Atomos drives will probably take up about like 50 gigs or so. And then when I edit it, of course, it will be a much smaller file and I'll use much less of that. And there's compression that happens when I save the file for YouTube and whatnot. But those produce a pretty decent size file. So those are that's the camera, or at least the front camera, or the main camera, and the capture devices. And then I've got the other camera up here, which is the same exact camera, just a different lens, and then the microphone that captures my audio. And that microphone actually runs over here to this mixer, which I don't really need a mixer at this point because I only have one thing that I'm really running into it. But it does provide phantom power for the mic, and that keeps that pretty simple. The mic needs its own power, and so the mixer does that. And mixers are fairly, consistent devices. I haven't had any problems with it. And then the audio runs out of this, so the audio actually comes out right here, and it runs into the camera. And so that way the audio is actually being fed into this channel here on the Atomos, and then I don't have to like sync up audio later. I used to sync up the audio in post, and it was It wasn't that it was a pain, it's just like if you don't have to, why? And so that's kind of why I have the audio running directly into the camera, even though it might be a little better if I had the audio recording into a separate device. So the iPad is almost done updating, and then we can jump back into finishing our video. Here in California, it's 5 o'clock. This is usually the time that I go home. I try not to work any later than 5 o'clock, just, because I've got a wife and 3 kids at home, and I want to make sure that I get plenty of time with them before my kids go to bed. So this video won't take too much longer as soon as the iPad is done running that update. So just to kind of recap what I've been doing here is live streaming while I'm filming a video that I will then edit and post to State of Tech later on. And the reason I decided to live stream was just to hang out with all of you and maybe have some chats, but the chats have been fairly light. So it's just kind of testing this out. I like the idea of live streaming. I just haven't done much of it, and I want to do more of it. And so what better way to do that than just to jump in from time to time and do it. Okay, so the iPad is done. I need to hit record on those Atomos drives again, so let me do that really quick. And then we can film the ending to our how to update your iPad to iOS 12 video. So here we go. All right, so the device is done updating. It did restart twice, and the process took about 15 minutes, or I'd say about 10 minutes on the iPad Pro. 2017 edition, I think, is what this model is. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my passcode to unlock, and I get greeted with this update completed video, and there's a continue button down at the bottom. I'm going to tap that, and it's just going to run me through some of the new features, keep your iPad up to date. This is going to make sure that your updates are happening automatically, which I think is pretty important. So go ahead and hit continue, or if you're risky and you want to do it manually, tap that manual button. But let's go ahead and hit continue. Now the new screen time feature, it's going to ask you if you want to set this up now. I definitely do want to set this up because I find this interesting. Like being able to track the usage and stuff like that is going to be an interesting metric for me to have in my life, just to see how much time I'm spending on devices. So I'm going to hit continue, switch between recent apps, swipe up further from the bottom edge, then release to show your recent apps. I like that. Hit continue. Quickly access controls. It's just basically giving me tutorials at this point. And here we go. So what did it do besides, of course, update the software? It added the Stocks app back. So the Stocks app is there. Typically, I will take that app and just go and throw it in an Apple folder. I also have a voice memos app that is here, and I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the Apple folder as well. So other than that, I mean, there isn't, too much stuff. I mean, you could swipe up here and you get your multitask, which is definitely different than before, because you swipe up on the bottom of the iPad and then swipe up again to get this stuff. So this is a little bit different usage for the iPad, and I'll definitely be coming back later with a walkthrough of iOS 12 and maybe some iOS 12 tips videos for the iPad, because this is changing a little bit of the way that you navigate and get around your iPad. So I want to make sure and share that stuff with you. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button to be notified when we put out new videos. So thanks again for checking it out, and I hope to see you back here soon on State of Tech. Take care. All right, so that concludes making a video. Took me, what are we, about 44 minutes into the live stream here, and so it took me about that long to make this video. Most of it was waiting on the iPad to do what it needs to do. So now that my iPad is updated to iOS 12, I'm going to spend some time playing with it. Excuse me. Kind of just seeing how iOS 12 feels. I know it's not like that big of a jump, but I do like the fact that the swipe gestures are more in line with like an iPad or like an iPhone 10 because I got used to swiping up from the bottom to get to multitask and swiping down from the top corner, top right corner to get to the quick settings and whatnot, and then swiping down from the center to get to notification center. And the fact that notifications are now stacked is kind of cool. I mean, it's still not as nice as it is on Android, but at least Notification Center isn't going to look like a disaster like it usually does. So, anyways, that is it for the live stream, I think. I appreciate, I know a couple of you were in here basically the entire time, and I thank you so much for the questions and for just participating a little bit. If you're watching this later and you have some thoughts on what you'd like to see as far as live streams go in the future, if I was to do more of these, let me know down in the comment section or comment throughout this video. Shoot me an email, hit me up on Instagram or Twitter, Facebook even. All the different ways you can communicate with me there. I would love to have some of your insight. Lately, pretty much all of the time that I've been doing this, I put out videos. I jump into the comments from time to time, but I want to make this more like of a community of all of us who enjoy technology, enjoy learning about technology. And so I'm hoping to do more stuff like this. So that's going to do it for the live stream. Thanks again for those of you that that hung out with me in the live stream, and be looking forward to this iOS 12 update video. Not that you might need the assistance, but it's maybe interesting just to see the final product of a video that we all did together. So take care, and I hope to see you back soon. Oh, we got a comment in here: maximizing your experience using iMessage and FaceTime on multiple devices. You know, I did, I'll just talk about this really briefly. I did notice, I was reading what is new in, because Apple just released iOS 12.1 beta to like developers, and they're bringing back like group FaceTime and all that stuff. And so there's going to be some features and stuff in FaceTime and some optimizations in FaceTime that are coming. And so when that feature does come out, I do want to do a video on like group FaceTime chat and stuff like that, and maybe even bring in some other people into the FaceTime group chat just so that we can have that together and talk about how that works and how to use that, because I think it's a cool feature being able to have like some group chat type of, I mean like a really legit like group chat in FaceTime as opposed to just you know, one-to-one chats. So anyways, thanks again for being a part of this live chat and for hanging out with me, and I hope to see you all back in another one. Take care.